Hi, my name is Jackson Mumey, and this is the second part of my video series about new directions in the bar exam. In 1967, there was a fairly obscure rock band at the time by the name of Buffalo Springfield, and they had a hit song. It was called For What It's Worth, and I've slightly altered some of the lyrics, but the good news is I'm not going to sing it, I'm just going to read it to you. The lyrics went something like this: "There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a bar review course over there telling me I've got to beware. It's time we stop, children. What's that sound? Everyone's scores could be going down." Well, my apologies to Stephen Stills, but I think you get the idea. In part one of this series, I talked about some trends and some things that I thought were coming along. In fact, I would describe it as the leading edge of a tsunami that could be coming into the bar exam industry. And I looked at some of the reasons and some of the signs of that problem. Today, what I want to do is focus on one of the players in this mix, and that's the law schools particularly. In future series, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the bar review courses and students and what they need to do. But I think it's important to understand that this is an interconnected circumstance, and the law schools bear some responsibility for what's going on. Now, a couple of years ago, the American Bar Association changed some of their rules and regulations with respect to law schools and indicated that it was now permissible to include bar exam studies or preparation as part of the standard law school curriculum. Well, that was good news for some schools. It was very bad news for others. And indeed, most of what you would describe as the high-end law schools have always sort of turned up their nose that bar preparation is certainly beneath their stated mission of preparing people for real life or life after law school, but it wasn't academic enough. And as a result, most of those schools simply ignored that opportunity to provide additional training to their students. Interestingly enough, over the last couple of years, I've had an increasing number of students coming to me from high-end law schools, places like Hastings and Berkeley and Duke and Stanford, from Harvard and from Yale. These are good students, obviously, who simply didn't prepare properly for the bar exam, got hit with an exam that was much tougher than they expected, and for the first time in their lives, very successful lives, they failed a test. Interesting to me to see that grouping. Now, at the other end of the scale, we had law schools that were either unaccredited or state accredited or correspondence schools in states like California or Georgia. And in those states and in those schools, they took this opportunity to provide bar review preparation a little more seriously. In fact, many of those schools, particularly in California, had bar review preparation as part of their curriculum for a long time. And they were a bit more advanced. The problem there was that by and large the people teaching those bar prep courses didn't know very much about the bar exam. In fact, they were sometimes foreign trained attorneys who'd never even taken a bar. They were people who had a very limited exposure to the bar exam or how to teach for the bar exam. And routinely, I see students that come from these schools who have some of the most amazing, convoluted, crazy, ineffective study strategies that you can possibly imagine. In other cases, simply what they would do is take whatever the mega bar review course was that particular instructor had gone through X number of years ago and repeat it almost verbatim, which I'm sure made the people that owned the bar reviews really happy. But it didn't work very well because the person doing the teaching typically didn't understand why it was being offered. So a typical course might say you have to do 50 multi-state questions a night, but no idea why or how that would work or what the benefit would be. Well, in a tougher bar exam environment, that kind of preparation is simply not working very well. And then we've got the schools that would have been historically good schools or acceptable schools that weren't quite sure what to do with this new opportunity, thought they ought to provide some kind of bar exam preparation, and dipped into the ranks of the adjuncts or maybe the alumni who had yet to find a job. And they got this bewildering variety of people teaching about the bar. This caused some of those schools to have enormously fouled up approaches to the exam. We saw some of those results in states like Florida and California and New York this year. And it was interesting to see that there were schools that historically had done okay that now were not doing so well. I think in large part because they had students going through courses that just simply didn't help them get ready for the bar. The point I want to make about all this is not that law schools are bad or that they shouldn't be in the bar exam preparation field. I think it's great. I think it's a wonderful thing, and on our website we've got some information about mentoring that talks about the value of that. The problem is that most of those courses don't do anything to teach people how to write for the specific exam that they're taking. Just because you go to law school in Florida doesn't mean you're going to take the Florida bar exam, or school mean you're going to take it in California. And so you have this difference between jurisdictions. You have a difference in whether or not to put an emphasis on multi-state or on a performance test or on an essay. And frankly, you have people who aren't very good teachers. Now, it's been no secret for many years that the legal writing and research faculty on almost any major law school is viewed as second-tier faculty, people who aren't as qualified or as experienced. And I think that's unfair. They work extremely hard, they're well trained and talented. The problem is those aren't the people teaching the bar either. And so your best writing teachers are simply not engaged in instruction, generally speaking, for law students preparing for the exam. So for students who are in their second or third or fourth year of law school, who are thinking that the law school course they're taking is going to prepare them for the test, empirically I would tell you that the evidence is probably no, it won't do it. It might be a start, but in some cases it's actually going to be counterproductive, because you may be learning some things that just don't make any sense for the exam you're going to take, or frankly just don't make any sense, and because you have to get a grade in the course, you have to take the course, you're required to do some things that you may have to unlearn when you're in a competent bar review at a later date. I think that law schools are going to have to come out of the ivory tower on this. If the exams are in fact getting harder, and if the grading is getting tougher, as I theorized in the first part of this series, then the law schools are not going to be able to sit back and say, well, it's really not our problem anymore. I mean, it clearly is their problem. We saw here in Florida after the February exams that a couple of the major state law schools that have historically always done very well did very poorly, and they were very upset, and they sent out notes and emails to their upcoming students saying it's really important that you pass the bar. Well, duh, it's important to that student. I don't think the student's taking the bar to help their law school get a better ranking or rating. But the reality is that the schools aren't doing very much to improve it. They're not really working closely with people that know much about the bar exam, and they're not giving their students the kind of really hands-on practice and work that frankly they need to be successful. So when we look at the possibility of harder exams, lower scores, I would say that one of the first things that you need to be aware of is that the traditional approach, now traditional, of taking a law school course to get ready for the bar exam simply isn't enough. It may not be the worst thing you can do with your time, but frankly it's not very productive. And if it's an optional course for you, I would say skip it. It's just not worth it. A good solid bar review will do a much better job. It's focused on the exam you're taking and the time frame you're taking it. There's less distraction, and typically in a course like ours there's a far greater amount of individualized instruction and assistance, particularly with the writing pieces of the exam. If what you're planning to do is simply take a class in your last year of law school at your school that you think is going to prepare you for the bar exam, what I would tell you is that based on my experience over the last couple of years, that's a very poor strategy. And in this environment, it's doomed to failure for an awful lot of people. So I don't think that's a good plan at all. Now, in upcoming videos, I'm going to talk more specifically about what I think is happening to the large bar reviews and the mistakes that are occurring there and why that may not be helpful for you as well. And then I'm also finally going to look at what I think a small, individualized, personalized course can do to help you pass the bar exam in a tougher time. Is there a change coming? Absolutely. You know, Buffalo Springfield's saying, for what it's worth, and I guess that's really the point. What's it worth to you to find out what's coming and to be ready for it? Well, it could mean an awful lot, and so I would tell you to look around. There's a change going on right now, and we want you to be ready for it. Thanks very much for watching and listening. I'll be back with the next part of this series and look forward to sharing those ideas with you then. Thanks.